Patton was halfway through the prisoner line when every German POW raised his face for inspection except one man near the end, a thin prisoner with a fresh number tag, muddy boots that did not match his uniform, and hands locked around a folded scrap of cloth. And when a guard tried to force his chin upward, Patton stopped the entire column because the man was not hiding fear. He was hiding something the camp had already agreed not to see. Patton entered the German POW camp with a small inspection team, while trucks waited outside the gate to move 200 prisoners to a larger holding area before sunset. And the American camp officer expected the visit to last less than an hour because the surrender papers had already been signed. The German camp commander, Major Felt, presented the prisoner roll with careful confidence, and he told Patton that the men had been counted, medically screened, and separated by rank, which made the transfer safe, orderly, and ready for approval. Patton walked along the first row while American clerks checked tags against the ledger, and most prisoners lifted their faces long enough for the numbers to be confirmed. But near the end of the second row, one man kept his head down and held his hands tight against his coat. A German guard stepped forward to lift the prisoner's chin, but Patton raised one hand and stopped him before the fingers touched the man, then ordered the prisoner removed from the line without anyone speaking to him in German. The man was placed beside a wooden counting table, and when an American sergeant named Cole asked for his name, the prisoner did not answer, yet his number tag showed that he had been registered only that morning, hours before the inspection. Feltz said the man was a late arrival from a broken convoy, but Cole opened the morning intake book and found no matching entry, while the prisoner's boots carried fresh mud from the northern road, not the camp yard. Patton ordered the transfer trucks held, and the prisoners in the line were moved back 10 paces while he watched Cole remove the folded cloth from the man's hands, revealing a torn sleeve patch from an American uniform with 3 penciled numbers on the inside. The numbers matched no prisoner tag in the visible list, yet one of the American clerks recognized the format as a field message code used by engineers, and Patton ordered Felt to explain why a German POW carried cloth marked like an American military note. Felt claimed the prisoner had stolen it from captured supplies before surrender, but the prisoner suddenly pressed his hand over the cloth as if trying to protect it from the German officers, which made Patton order him taken to the administration hut under American guard. Inside the hut, Cole searched the prisoner's coat and found a second number tag sewn under the lining, older than the first and issued to another man who had supposedly died during transport 3 days earlier. Patton ordered every transfer document closed, every truck driver held at the gate, and every German clerk separated from the commander, because one prisoner who refused to look up had already exposed 2 identities, one hidden message, and a camp record that had changed too quickly to be trusted. Subscribe for more forgotten German POW stories like this one. The escalation began when Patton ordered the prisoner line rebuilt by original convoy groups instead of Barak numbers, and the American clerks discovered that the silent prisoner had been placed among men who did not know him, which meant someone had inserted him into the transfer at the last moment. Cole questioned the truck drivers outside the gate, and one driver admitted that a covered wagon had arrived before dawn from the northern road, but the arrival had been signed into the supply log as firewood rather than prisoners. Patton sent 2 MPs to the supply shed, and they found no firewood missing. Yet behind the stacked crates, they discovered 5 torn number tags, a broken pair of glasses, and a German medical card with the name Emil Roche crossed out. The silent prisoner reacted when Cole read that name aloud, not by speaking, but by stepping toward the card and pointing to a stain of blue ink on the corner, the same ink that marked the American cloth message. Patton ordered him given paper and pencil, and the prisoner slowly wrote only one word, wrong, before Felt's adjutant shouted that the man was unstable and should not be used as a witness. Patton had the adjutant removed from the room, then ordered Cole to compare every crossed-out name with the death ledger, and within minutes they found that 3 prisoners listed as dead had received bread rations the following morning. The kitchen book became the next target, and American soldiers entered the mess building, where the cook admitted that extra rations had been issued to a locked room beside the laundry, but he had been told the room held fever cases from the convoy. The locked room held no sick men, only a table, 2 chairs, a basin of dirty water, and scraps of cloth cut from uniforms, including one American sleeve strip matching the message hidden in the silent prisoner's hands. A prisoner from Barrack 4 identified the silent man as Roche, a former German clerk who had worked near a retreat headquarters, and he said Roche had been beaten by other prisoners after refusing to sign a false statement about a captured American patrol. Patton moved Roche to a separate office and ordered the Barrack witness protected, while Cole found the false statement in Felt's desk drawer, already typed and waiting for a signature, claiming that American soldiers had died before reaching the camp. The statement named 3 American engineers, but the message numbers on the sleeve patch belonged to map coordinates, not casualty numbers, which meant the cloth was not proof of death but directions to something still hidden outside the wire. Patton ordered patrols toward the northern road, the laundry room sealed, and Felt placed under guard, because the refusal to look up had escalated from suspicious behavior into evidence that the camp was preparing to bury a captured patrol behind forged German testimony. The major consequence began when the patrol reached the northern road and found fresh wagon tracks leaving the ditch near an abandoned maintenance depot, where broken branches had been dragged over the mud to hide the turnoff. Cole followed the tracks to a collapsed repair shed and discovered a shallow storage pit covered with boards, and inside were American map cases, torn engineer tape, empty ration tins, and a field notebook with pages removed. Patton arrived before noon and ordered the entire depot treated as a military crime scene, while the road was blocked in both directions and every wagon returning to the camp was searched before reaching the gate. The field notebook carried the name Lieutenant Harper, an American engineer officer reported missing with 2 men after inspecting a bridge route, and the remaining page showed calculations for a temporary crossing over the same river marked by Roche's cloth numbers. Patton sent a warning to headquarters that a bridge site might be compromised, then ordered Felt confronted with the notebook, but the commander claimed the items had been gathered from battlefield debris and stored before he knew their value. That claim collapsed when Cole found a fresh camp laundry stamp on the notebook cover, proving it had passed through the camp after capture, and Patton ordered the German laundry staff arrested until the movement of every American item could be traced. The arrest caused unrest in the prisoner yard because several German POWs began shouting that Roche had betrayed them, and one prisoner threw a stone toward the protected office before American guards pushed the crowd back from the fence. Patton ordered the barracks locked by groups and allowed only prisoner representatives to speak, which exposed a new conflict when one representative admitted that Roche had recognized Felt's adjutant as a man from retreat headquarters and had refused to help hide American witnesses. Cole searched the adjutant's footlocker and found a packet of civilian identity papers, a bridge diagram, and a list of German officers who needed the northern road clear before the Americans finished securing the area. The consequence became immediate when an engineer messenger arrived with news that unknown men had been seen near the temporary bridge site wearing mixed uniforms and driving a wagon marked as medical transport. Patton ordered all camp vehicles disabled by removing distributor caps, then sent armed jeeps toward the bridge while Roche was brought under guard to identify the adjutant's handwriting on the stolen engineer diagram. Roche finally looked up for the first time when the diagram was placed before him, and he pointed not to the bridge, but to a small mill drawn beside the river, proving that the captured Americans were likely being held near the route the Germans planned to use for escape. The major reversal came at the river mill, where the search team expected to find the missing American engineers locked inside, but instead found the mill empty, the floor swept, and a kettle still warm beside 3 cups placed in the open as if someone wanted the Americans to arrive too late. Cole discovered a message scratched beneath the table edge, written in engineer shorthand, and it said the prisoners had been moved back toward the camp in a flour wagon because the escape group believed Patton would search only outside the wire. The reversal changed the whole investigation because the missing Americans were no longer hidden beyond the camp, and Patton realized that the same transfer trucks waiting at the gate could carry them out under German prisoner cover before the bridge warning fully reached headquarters. He returned to the camp at speed and ordered the trucks searched from axle to canvas, while Felt protested that the vehicles had already been inspected, which made Patton order the drivers pulled down and each prisoner's shoes checked for flour dust. In the third truck, Cole found white flour under the bench and a loose floorboard with air holes cut beneath it, but the space was empty, which meant the hidden compartment had been used and cleared moments before the search began. Roche was brought to the vehicle line, and when he saw the flour marks, he pointed toward the camp bakery, then wrote that the men were not in the trucks because the drivers had changed the plan after hearing the gate was locked. American soldiers entered the bakery and found fresh loaves stacked against a rear wall, yet the oven was cold, and behind the flour bins an underground passage led to a drainage culvert running below the outer fence. Inside the passage, the MPs found a torn American bootlace and a piece of bridge diagram wrapped around a nail, but no prisoners, while the far opening showed tracks leading back to the camp chapel. Patton ordered the chapel surrounded quietly, and inside, beneath stacked benches, the soldiers found Lieutenant Harper and one engineer alive, bound but breathing, while the third missing American was gone with Felt's adjutant. Harper warned that the adjutant had taken Corporal Miles because he alone knew which support beam at the temporary bridge had been left unfinished, and that knowledge could still allow the escape group to destroy the crossing without maps. The reversal became complete when Roche identified the adjutant as Captain Voss, a staff officer hiding under camp authority, and Patton understood that Felt was not the planner but the cover, while Voss had used the commander, the prisoners, and the inspection itself to move one final hostage. Patton ordered Felt held as an accomplice, Harper evacuated under guard, and every road from the chapel culvert sealed, because the man everyone thought was too afraid to raise his face had uncovered the real officer behind the operation. The final irreversible event began when Patton placed Roche in a jeep beside Cole and drove toward the unfinished bridge, because the German clerk knew Voss's handwriting, route habits, and emergency marks better than any captured map could show. At a fork in the river road, Roche tapped the dashboard and pointed to a chalk mark on a fence post, a small diagonal line that matched the marks used on the false convoy papers, and Patton ordered the jeeps off the main road toward an abandoned ferry house. The ferry house looked empty from the road, but Cole found fresh rope fibers on the dock rail, and an American scout spotted a covered boat moving under willow branches with two men crouched low inside. Patton ordered the men challenged before the boat reached the far bank, and when Voss raised a pistol toward Miles, Cole fired into the water beside the hull, while another soldier pulled the ferry rope tight and dragged the boat against the bank. Miles was pulled from the boat alive, and inside Voss's case the MPs found the final bridge sketch, two forged American passes, and a demolition schedule written over a prisoner transfer list taken from Felt's office. The irreversible break came when Miles confirmed that Voss had planned to enter the bridge crew under false papers, damage the unfinished support beam, and escape west with German officers using the chaos after the collapse. Patton ordered Voss, Felt, the drivers, and the prisoner enforcers separated for military investigation, then sent Miles and Harper's corrected bridge warning by courier so engineers could reinforce the crossing before the next supply convoy arrived. Back at the camp, Cole assembled the prisoners who had threatened Roche, and Patton made them watch as the false death records, hidden tags, flour wagon boards, and stolen American documents were laid across a table under guard. Roche was brought into the yard with no borrowed number on his coat, and Cole wrote his real name on a clean registration card while the old tag sewn under his lining was sealed as evidence instead of being used to erase him. The prisoner who had first thrown the stone tried to deny helping Voss, but Roche identified him as the man who forced the false statement into his hands, and the MPs removed him from the barrack line before the crowd could close around him. Patton signed the final order stopping the transfer, replacing the German administrative staff, and keeping Barrack 4, the bakery, the chapel, and the truck yard under evidence guard until every prisoner identity and American document was verified. The final act could not be undone because the bridge remained standing. The missing Americans survived, Voss's escape route collapsed, and the silent prisoner who refused to look up became the witness who forced the camp to face what it had tried to hide in plain sight. 2 days later, Roche stood beside the registration table while Cole removed the false tag from his file and wrote his true name beside the witness number that would travel to headquarters. Patton watched Harper and Miles pass through the gate under escort, then turned once toward the prisoner line where every face was raised, not from fear of inspection, but because the man who had kept his head down had saved 3 Americans, exposed Voss, and ended the transfer that would have carried the truth away. Most people know how World War II ended. Very few know what happened inside these prison camps. Subscribe for more untold WWII stories.